Good morning, everyone. My name is Nitin Malvadkar. I work with Beacon as an application engineer. I'm part of the pre-sales team, and today I'll be giving you a brief idea as to what all new features have been added and what all new enhancements have been done in terms of SolidWorks 2000. So let's proceed. SolidWorks 2014 is actually is a 22nd release of our 3D CAD software. It's a really exciting release packed with really new features which will help you enhance your productivity, which in turn will translate for new benefits for you or more benefits for you. Now, as you know, each year SolidWorks users request new enhancements and they suggest some new features or some other tools like different ways to automate common tasks or streamline design processes or even provide custom tools for specific industries. Now, all this feedback is really valuable and provides an insight for SolidWorks as to how the SolidWorks products are being used as of now. And they give SolidWorks an insight into different ways in which we as in SolidWorks can provide real improvements which will benefit you. So SolidWorks 2014 builds upon these inputs that have been received from the customers, and based on this, for 2014, there are more than hundreds of enhancements, and 90% of the enhancements were requested directly by the customers as well. Now, with SolidWorks 2014, you can finish your design projects quicker with powerful new features and time-saving shortcuts. Also, there are new workflows and streamlined processes which will help you integrate your design disciplines and collaborate with colleagues easier. Now, moving on, SolidWorks 2014 delivers many tools which will enhance your day-to-day design work. Now, we have new enhancements and new features. Like, for example, we have your capture. We can capture your ideas quicker with numerous sketch enhancements. Then also we have some new enhancements for complex shapes, which are created, which can be created with faster and smoother results. There are several new enhancements to conic tangency, or for the matter, fixed line spline. So we shall be covering all of this during today's session. And for today's session, we will be concentrating on four aspects. First is the sketch part. Second, we'll go on to parts in which we'll try to cover sheet metal as well as weldments, what are new enhancements and new features have been added. Then we'll move on to drawings and assemblies. So let's start with the first one. The first one being the sketch enhancements. The sketch enhancements, we have auto scaling of the first sketch dimension, also the lasso selection and the path length dimension. So we'll just have a look at this. Now, whenever users create new parts, they always start by creating the initial sketch profile. Now, it's very hard to gauge the scale of the sketch. Like, for example, over here we have three different circles. Now, you see, you don't know the scale of the sketch for this one, right? So when placing the first dimension to the sketch, let's say, for example, I want to give this a particular dimension, SolidWorks automatically scales the entire sketch to preserve the size and the position of all the entities within this sketch. All right. So further, SolidWorks has also maintained a view or zoom perspective. So what I mean to say is right now this diameter of the circle is around 99. If I change it to 35, you can see that the whole scale has changed, but the zoom perspective is still the same. It has maintained the scale perspective as well. All right. So it becomes very easy for me as a designer. So let's say I want to add some dimensions to this as well. I'll make it 40. I'll make this as 65. And now we have a new selection over here. Now let's say, for example, I want to make both these circles equal. So now what do I normally do is, normally I would do a window select on this. But now if I do a window select, I'm selecting the circles, yes, but along with the circle, I'm selecting this line as well, which I really don't want. For that, for SolidWorks 2014, we have a new tool which is called a lasso selection. So what I do is I just select the circles that I want. So I can skip the line altogether. And from there, I can just make them equal. Now I'll just go on further dimension the circle. I'll make it as 25. Now there's one more new enhancement which has been made in terms of sketchment, that is the addition of the path length dimension. Now in this scenario, what we are trying to do is lay out a belt drive system, and the length of the belt would be the preferred way of defining the positions of the remaining geometry. However, the problem we had was we did not originally create this sketch using blocks and path sketches. So now in case I want to find the dimension of this, the path, I'm not able to do that. So for this, we have something new in SolidWorks 2014, which is called as path length dimension. So I just go to Smart Dimension, Path Length Dimension. I just say select chain. I'll say okay. It gives me a length, the length of the whole path. I can make some modifications to it as well. Let's say, for example, I want it to be 265. So accordingly, I can change it. Once you enter the appropriate dimension value, the rest of the geometry is constrained by itself. So this is one enhancement which has been made in terms of sketches. So moving on, another enhancement which has been made in terms of spline enhancements. So we have something known as auto conic tendency. Also we have something for fixed length spline. So what used to happen initially was we used to create splines, yes, but we were not able to define the length of the spline, or we were not able to constrain the particular spline. So from 2014 onwards, we are able to do that. Also, there's a new style for splines, which is called a new style spline. And also one of the best enhancements in SolidWorks 2014 is the ability to replace a particular sketch without affecting the feature manager tree. So we'll have a look at this also. Now, like I told you before, there's an addition of conic tendency over here. So over here, if you see, I have this sketch which is already made. If you see over here, this radius, this is the fillets that have been added. Now, adding fillets can be time consuming because you need to select the arc and then accordingly give it the tangent relationship with these lines, right? So instead of that, we have something new which is known as conics. Over here, we have a new option which is called auto tendency. What you need to do is just select the endpoints and just define the conic. Similarly for this one also. Now I need to constrain this conic. So for that, I need to define it by the row value. For this, the row value, I'll keep it as 0.8. And this one I'll keep it as 0.7. That's it. So it's completely constrained. Okay. Moving on, like I told you, there's a new option for style spline as well. But before I do that, I want to showcase you something as the new dimensioning for splines. So over here we have a spline which is which has been trying to we can try to constrain a spline, but it's not possible in previous versions. What I mean to say is, like, this spline, I can still drag it outside. I can't dimension them. But with SolidWorks 2014 onwards, we have this new ability by which we can dimension a spline as well. So I go to my Smart Dimensioning, I select a particular spline. Over here, I can define the length of the spline as well. So this is one more enhancement which has been made in 2014. Now, since I was talking about the new kind of splines, right? So I'll just go to this sketch. Now, working with splines is not easy, especially for a beginner. So if you created a particular spline, you want to see how smooth the particular spline that you created is. For that, we have different options like this. For example, we have this show curvature combs, by which you can see how smooth is your actual spline. But over here, you can see that, this spline is not exactly smooth. So for that, if you need to create a new spline, we have a new option now, which will help us a lot, which is called Style Spline. It falls under the Spline option. You go to Style Spline. For this, you just select the points. Just define the kind of a shape that you want your spline to take, and then accordingly dimension it. For example, I want this to be 20 mm from the origin. and I want this to be around 165. Similarly, I want this to be perpendicular as well as equal. The same applies for the other part as well. I want it to be perpendicular as well as equal. I want these two to be equal again, and I want this to be horizontal. So once I see this, I can see that if you have a look at the new spline that we created, if I turn on my curvature combs, you can see that it's a much more smoother spline, right? Now, like I was telling you, there's the ability of replacing the sketch altogether. So let's say, for example, I want to replace the original spline that we created with this new spline that we have created just now. So for that, we have something known as replace entities. Okay. So once you click on the replace entities, it is asking you which entity do you want to replace. I want to replace my older spline with this particular new spline that we have created. Now I have two options. I can delete the existing spline, or I can make the existing spline as construction. So if I'll go with make the existing spline as construction, I'll say okay. And if I come out of my sketch, you can see that the rest of the features are not affected at all, because normally what used to happen was if I made any changes to a sketch in a feature, my feature management tree afterwards would get affected. But now with the replace entities feature, I can make some changes to the sketch without my feature management tree getting affected at all. And this, I believe, saves a lot of time. So moving on, we'll have a look at what all enhancements or what all features have been added in terms of parts. So we'll go with the sheet metal enhancements. Now the swept flange enhancement was there since SolidWorks 2012. Now they made some modifications to it, and they made some enhancements to it as well. They've added a new feature for adding your gussets and also relief features. And we have a new lofted bend altogether, by which we can control the lofted bend with the number of bends or a chord tolerance or a segment length. So we'll have a look at all of these in detail. Okay. You see over here we have a sheet metal which has been created by using a swept flange. Now if I do a flattened pattern, you see the flat pattern that we get. This is actually not the right one for manufacturing, right? I mean, first of all, we can't manufacture this, and even if we try to get this, it will result in a lot of scrap wastage, right? So the new option in SolidWorks 2014 is, if I go for edit feature, I can define where my flat pattern should start with, where my reference should start with. So for that, I have this option over here which says cylindrical or conical bodies. I just select this line from where I'm just defining the reference for my swept flange to start with. So if I say OK now, and now if I do a flat pattern, I get a flattened pattern which is much more, which is actually right. It's easier for me to manufacture this, right? So this is one enhancement. Now the other enhancement is the addition of the gusset feature. Now gusset was always there when it comes to weldments and all, but in sheet metal also what we had to do initially was we had to create a new forming tool and then accordingly drop it inside the sheet metal. But now in 2014 onwards, you have this option directly. You just go to sheet metal gusset. You just select the two surfaces that you want to create a gusset in. Now over here you have different options. The main option being I can define my indent width, and I can also define my indent thickness over here. Also, I have these different options. I can make it a flat gusset or I can make it a rounded gusset. I'll go with the rounded gusset as of now. I'll say OK. And the best thing about this gussets is like it keeps the previous values intact. So I don't have to keep on entering my values again and again. I just select this, say OK. Now one more addition that has been made, or one more enhancement that has been made, has been in terms of the corner reliefs that you have. Now we always had this, SolidWorks always had this different types of corners. We had this rounded or rectangular, or we had this tear shaped or bound shape. But But when it came to visual properties, we are not able to view that inside the part. For that, we had to go into the flatten pattern in the drawing, and only then it is to be visible. But now onwards, from SolidWorks 2014 onwards, I can define and I can actually see how it looks like also. For example, I have this particular corner that I want to change. So if I click on that, I want to make it rectangular. I can define it to be, let's say, make it 5. Similarly, for the second one, I want to make it circular. I'll make it, let's say, 2.5. And the third one, I'll let it be teardrop. And the fourth one, I'll make it urban. And I'll just change it to 0.5. Let's say okay. So I can add individual corner reliefs I can add, or I can add a particular type of a corner relief for all the corners as well. So as the main point is, you can see that in the part as well, so which was not possible in the previous versions. So this is one more enhancement in terms of sheet metal. Now, like I was telling you, like I was talking to you about, they made some modifications, or they made some enhancements for the lofted bend as well. Let's say, for example, I want to create a lofted bend from these two sketches that I have. So if I go for lofted bend, I select this. This is a new feature that they have added. I can control my lofted bend by the number of bends, or the segment length, or I can change the segment angle, or the chord length. Initially, what we used to do was we could create a lofted bend, yes, but then we didn't have the control over the number of bends that we wanted. Or even if we could somehow work around and find a workaround to get the number of bends, but where the bend lines would show wasn't exactly something that we could define. But from now 2014 onwards, I can define where exactly do my bend lines, where exactly do I want my bend lines as well. So for example, I want to change the number of bends to, I'll make it to 8. I'll say okay. And if I do a flatten of this, I get my bend lines over here as well for me. So it becomes much more easier for me to actually make this part, right? So this is an additional enhancement that has been made in SolidWorks. Okay, moving on, we'll go to weldments and what all changes they have made in terms of weldments and part enhancements. Now, one of the main changes that they have made is like configurable weldment profiles and configurable equations. So what I mean by configurable equations is like initially whenever we create an equation and we had different configurations, those equations used to be get applied to all of those configurations. But now onwards, from 2014 onwards, I can define which particular configuration I want a particular equation to be applied for. So this is something new. Then also I have a new addition of slots in the whole visit. We have through all in the both directions. It's a small enhancement, but it's a very useful enhancement. And one more option is like we can retain the children of a deleted feature. Let's say, for example, I'm deleting a particular feature. What used to happen was whatever child items were there, which were associated with that particular feature, they also used to get deleted. But now I can control whether I want to delete the child feature or I don't want to delete them. So we'll just have a look at them. Over here we have a weldment structure. I'll just hide this table. Okay. Now if you go over here, we have this weldment structure, right? So if I go to my structural member, if I edit my structural member, normally what you had to do was we had to select what kind of a standard it was, whether it was ANSI inch or ANSI ISO or whatever it is, and then we had to go into rectangular tube, and then you had to select the size and all that. Now this profiles and all that were created, that used to take a long time, right? And how do you actually create a profile? Let's say, for example, this is a profile that I have. I have a rectangular tube profile. I just open this. Now, this is a rectangular tube profile. But now, if I need to keep the shape constant and I want to change the dimensions for it. So what I had to do initially, make the dimension, change the dimensions, and then again save that particular profile as a SolidWorks library part, right? So let's say for example, I have the same shape and I have 100 different configurations. So for that, I'll need to create 100 different library parts, right? So that is really time consuming. But from SolidWorks 2014 onwards, what happens is over here, we have created this all these configurations by making use of the rectangle or the design tables. Sorry. So if I go to my design table, if I say edit table in a new window, it's making use of the design table altogether for creating different profiles. I can create new profiles by using this design table. So this saves me a lot of time. Instead of me having to create each and every individual profile every time, I just go to my design table and create them all together. Right? So this saves you a lot of time. Now, speaking of configurations, we'll talk about equations, right? So let's say, for example, I want to add a new configuration over here. I just go to my configurations. Sorry. I go to add configuration. I want to make it a square table. Okay. So once I'm in this configuration, the square table configuration, I want to change this dimension. So if I double click on this, I want to give it an equation. So I just say equal to, and I want it to be equal to this particular dimension. So I'll just say okay. But now over here, I have this new option which allows me to apply a particular equation only for this particular configuration, or I can define whether do I want it for all the configurations. As of now, I want it only for this particular configuration. I'll say okay, and I'll just refresh. Okay. So now if I go to my equations list over here, you can see if I go to my manage equations, you can see my equation is there, but it's only under the square table. If I change my configuration to rectangular, this equation that I've given disappears, right? So this again saves you a lot of time, right? Now, one more small enhancement that has been made, but is actually a very significant enhancement, is like this. Let's say, for example, I have this particular circle. Now, I want to use an extrude cut for this. Now, normally what I used to do was I used to right click on this and I used to say through all. I was able to define whether I wanted through all in both the directions. I mean over here and direction 2, I had to define it over here. But now in 2014 onwards, I can directly define through all in both the directions. So this saves me additional time. Now, like I was telling you, we can delete the child features as well without, I mean, we have this option of deleting a particular feature without the child features as well. So for that, let's say I turn on this planes. Now I have this particular plane which I want to delete. Once I go for delete option, these are the child features that are associated with that particular plane. So if I say okay, all these child features will get deleted as well. But in 2014 onwards, I have this new option. It says delete child features. So by that, I can delete only that particular feature that I'm talking about. Right. So this saves me a lot of time as well. Right. So coming back to our PPT, my.solidworks.com. So my.solidworks.com is actually a new online SolidWorks community, which is basically based for is intended to make it much more easier to get access to the resources and expertise of the entire community, SolidWorks community. Basically, it's in short, it's one place to connect, discover, and share everything about SolidWorks. In my.solidworks.com, you can actually search a topic and see immediate results from everywhere, be it from forums or blogs or video channels and all. So instead of having to go to YouTube and trying to search out how a particular design is being made, you can mostly find all those videos inside my.solidworks.com itself. And over here, you can find out what all are the latest news and updates which are being tailored for your interest. Yeah. And also the good thing is like you can browse for 3D Content Central's 3D models from here itself. Instead of having to log on to 3D Content Central, you can log on to my.solidworks.com and find out whatever models that you're looking for over here itself. So my.solidworks.com is actually open for all, but the customers who are on subscription get the most out of most of this site, because it has access to support knowledge base as well as the SPR database, and you have privileged content in the forums and more. So just log on to SolidWorks online customer account or just sign up for my.solidworks.com. Now moving on, we are talking about assemblies now. In assemblies, they've also made some modifications which will actually help with your designs, and it will help you design your designs much more faster and much more easier. So we'll have a look at them. So in terms of assemblies, what all changes they have made? They've made it much more easier to find different properties. Let's say, for example, you want to change your configuration. So they've added a new quick access for configurations. They've added quick access for make a flexible switch. It's like you have a particular sub-assembly or your assembly. You want to change it from rigid to flexible and from flexible to rigid. You don't have to dig down and try to find out where exactly is it. There's a directly icon available by which you can make this. And also they've added a new selection filter by which you can select your components within the assembly based on the size. And also within the assembly expert, now you can find out the number of hidden components or number of virtual or the envelope components that you have. One more modification has been the addition of the rotation in terms of exploding. What I mean to say is, let's say for example, you are creating a exploded view. So initially till now what we used to do was we used to get a triad, and by the triad you used to keep on, you used to get a linear translation. But now in 2014 onwards, along with the translation, I can rotate those particular components as well. And this will save me, a lot of time in case I need to make a video of, let's say, how a particular assembly is being assembled or disassembled. We'll have a look at this. So this is the assembly that we'll be concentrating on. Now, like I was telling you, for this assembly, they've added, for assemblies and all that, they added a new feature or a new components. So the new enhancement has been, let's say, for example, you want to change the configuration of this particular assembly. So if I click on this assembly, I say select sub-assembly from here. Now, we have this configurations directly over here. Initially, what I had to do was I had to go into component properties and then select whether I want to make it extended or retracted or free. Let's say, for example, I want to make this free. I'll say OK. Similarly, if I click on this particular assembly, and if I go to my feature manager tree over here, if I click on this, I have this option of making it flexible or rigid. Now again, this option was always there, but it was hidden inside component properties. So some of the people didn't know where exactly was it to be, how do I make an assembly rigid or flexible. So from now onwards, you can easily find out over here. If you click on this particular assembly or a sub-assembly, you can directly make it rigid or flexible. So you can see that the assembly that we created is now flexible altogether. Now the new feature which has been added, the new feature which has been added is the selection filter. Now I can define, or I can select my components with respect to the size. Let's say, for example, you go to select by size. I can define by percentage of the assembly. I can select all the components which are, let's say, 20% of the assembly, or let's say I can make it 5. I can make it 5%, or even I can make it 10%. So let's say if I am interested in 10% of the assembly, I'll say OK. And if I right click on this, I can actually hide all these components, or I can actually, just isolate these components and so forth. So this is an additional new selection filter that we've added. Now moving on, we always had this option of clicking on a particular part and seeing view mates. You want to find out what all mates are associated with this. But now in 2014 onwards, I can find mates, or I can view mates which are with respect to planes as well as sketches. Let's say, for example, there's a sketch I want to do, which is the sketch I have. I have this option of seeing the view mates for this particular sketch as well. I can find it for sketch, I can find it for points, I can find it for planes and all these things. This is something new in SolidWorks 2014. Now, I was talking to you about the exploded view. So let's say, for example, I want to create an exploded view for this piston sub-assembly. All right, so I go to my explode view, I have this new option over here which says rotate. So what I do is, let's say for example, I take this nuts, I just drag them out. Similarly, I take the screws that I have, I drag them out as well. Now I have this piston sub-assembly. I can define the rotation with respect to other planes as well. So let's say for example, I drag this and I just place this on this particular surface. Now I can define that it is rotating about this particular axis. So if I say this, I say okay, that's it. So my explode view is done. And this is actually very helpful when you are trying to create an animation for it. Let's say for example, you want to animate the collapse of it. So this will give you a better idea, especially when you're trying to create some animation which is required for your training force. You want to showcase how a particular assembly is being assembled or how assembly is being disassembled. So I can use these options and make my animations accordingly. So this saves me a lot of time as well. Now one more addition or one more change that has been made has been in terms of mirror components. Now with mirror components, we always had this ability to mirror components and all that. But then starting with SolidWorks 2014, the new additions have been that we support. SolidWorks 2014 supports advanced and mechanical mates as well. Like it supports cam, hinge, linear coupler, path, symmetric, universal joints and bit mates. And also one of the new significant enhancement that has been made has been about a mirror about a bonding box. So we'll just have a look at this as well. So these are the mirror components that have been made. Now, like I was telling you, we have new enhancements which has been made, which supports hinge mates or even path mates and all these things. So this is something new in SolidWorks 2014. Now, let's say for example, I click on this particular part and there's one more particular part which I want to unsuppress. Now, you see this, if I go to my mirror component part, or if I go to my mirror, edit my mirror components, I have two options over here. The mirror type is like about a center of mass or a bounding box center. So normally all this time what used to happen was, let's say you want to create, to mirror lots of components. Then what used to happen was it used to use a center of mass for mirroring it. So from 2014 onwards, we have another option by which we can define whether we want the mirror option to be based on the center of mass or the bounding box center. Like this example, if you see, if I do a center of mass, I'm getting my mirrored option, the mirror components, yes, but I'm not getting it where exactly I want it to be. But if I change it to bounding center box or bounding box center, I can see that all my components have been mirrored exactly in the position that I really want them to be. So this is another additional enhancement that has been made, which will actually help you a lot when you're creating your mirrored components, right? So these were all the changes that has been made in terms of assemblies. Now moving on, we go to drawings and what all changes have been made in drawings. Now in manufacturing, you know that drawings are the most important parts, right? This is the only way by which you can communicate all your dimensions and everything else across to your shop floor. So SolidWorks, the main point is to try to make your drawings as easy as possible, or to create your drawings as easily as possible. So what all new changes have been added? They are completely revised the view palette that you have. Now, one more addition or one more new addition, and it's actually a very important addition, is the replacing of your drawing views. One more is like you can now create section views for surface bodies as well. So this is one enhancement which has been requested by a lot of our customers. And the other enhancements is like, you could create slots and all. So we have slot callouts, and we have angular running dimensions and node enhancements. So we'll just have a look at them. Now, like I was telling you, they made some modifications to the view palette as well. So if you go to my view palette, you'll see that what all views are here, whatever views are required or the orientations are required are always there in the view palette. Now, you see a small tick mark which is in front of the parts or the views that has been dropped inside the sheet. Let's say, for example, I want to drop an isometric view over here. So I just drag the isometric view and place it on the sheet. So if I go to my view palette, you can see that a small tick mark has been added in terms of isometric view. So this actually helps me whenever I'm creating new views and all that. So I don't keep on repeating, keep on dropping the same views again and again. So I can directly see, okay, this is a view that is already existing over here, so I don't need to drop it, right? So this is one enhancement in terms of view palettes. Now, one of the most significant enhancement is the ability to change your or replace your model. Let's say, for example, you're working on a particular model and you created all the views and everything else, you given the dimensions and everything else, and suddenly you find out that the model that you're working on was not the right one, or you say instead of working on part A, you've been working on part B. Now what do you do? Everybody knows that creating all these views and especially detail views and section views takes a lot of time, right? So now since all the views are there, you again have to, if there's some change or something, you realize that you need to work on a different part. What you had to do was you had to start over again, right? So from SolidWorks 2014 14 onwards, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You just go to replace models option. You just select the views or select the assembly or the part that you want to replace the existing drawings or drawing views with. Over here, I want to change it instead of the part. I want to change it for the assembly. I'll just select the assembly. Now I can define which views I want to change, or I can just select all and say okay. So all my views are changed accordingly to fit my assembly. So this is a time saver, right? Now, one more enhancement has been made in terms of, let's say you want to have section views, right? So you have a section view, you want to edit your section line. So there is something new in 2014. I have this ability of editing my existing section line. So I just go for section line. I just say edit line. I just go for single offset. I define where I want my offset to be. I just select this. I'll say okay. So in case you do miss, creating your section views, initially you can now have the option of editing those section views as well. Now I want to find the length of this. But now I want to find the length from this the intersection of this particular curve and this particular line that I have. So in the previous versions, what we used to do was we used to create a particular point. We used to extend these particular curves and this line and find a common point, and then we used to give a dimension. But now from 2014 onwards, what you need to do is I just need to select this particular curve. I'll say right click, find intersection between this particular curve and this particular line. So it finds the intersection of point. If I go over here, similarly, I do the same thing as right click on this particular curve. I'll say find the intersection of this curve and this particular line. So it gives me the ability of directly finding the length between these two intersecting points as well. Now, in 2014, one more addition is like you want to make some changes to the leader lines. Let's say, for example, I want to change how my dimension line looks like. I have this ability. This was always there in AutoCAD. This is something which is new. Which has been implemented in 2014 as well. So it gives you a better control as to how I want my extension lines or how I want my leader lines to be. I can also use custom position text, how I want my text to be, whether I want it below the line or whether I want it above the line. Let's say, and also have this option of adding dual dimensions. Now, this dual dimensions I can actually split by using the split command over here. So, and let's say if I don't want this dual dimensions and I want to add something to this text, so I have this option over here. So wherein I can add some text like above the leader line, or I can say below the reader line. So this is something new which has been added in 2014. I can actually add text on the leader line itself, so it makes it easier for me to communicate my ideas across, right? One more new feature or one more new enhancement is like in terms of notes. Now you can attach notes with respect to particular views as well. So let's say, for example, I have this node which is attached to a front view, but I need to change this. So I go to attachment, I say attach to a particular view. So instead of front view, if I select this particular view, you see this automatically gets changed over here as well. So this is the way you can actually attach your particular views to your nodes to your particular views. Now let's have a look at a detailed view for this one. I want to create a detailed view for this. I just place it over here. Now you see over here we get this detail V scale 1:1. Now if I double click on this, let's say for example I mistakenly I tend to delete it. So now initially in the previous version, if I happen to delete it, I was not able to get it back, right? But now in 2014 onwards, I had this option of whether I want it, or I want to keep it, or I want to delete it over here. So I just need to click on the detail view. I have these different options. Let's say, for example, I delete. I don't want the scale over here, so I just delete it. But in case if I require it, I have this label tags by which I can define how and when, what all do I want over here. So this is something new. Now I want to add center marks. Now center marks was always there, but now center marks are supported for slots as well. So let's say I want to add a center mark over here, and I just select this particular slot. And now once I select the particular slot, I get this option of saying propagate. If I propagate on this, it propagates to all surrounding slots as well. Similarly, I can add slots for this particular slots as well. I have this option of propagate. See how it propagates to all the slots as well. So these are the changes that have been made in terms of drawings, and I'm sure with these changes you'll be able to create your manufacturing drawings much more faster and much more easier. Now, coming back to our main. So the one more changes that have been made in terms of graphics. They've made really big modifications to the graphics. Now also they made some modifications to the user interface, and also they've added something known as a history folder. And they've also made some enhancements to the section view as well. So we'll just have a look at this. Now, one of the new enhancements that has been made is the addition of the history folder. Let's say, for example, I have this subassembly. I'll open this subassembly. And if I see on this particular part, you see this history folder. It has, three different features which are listed over here. Now, these three different features are listed there because these are the three features that keep on changing every time. So let's say, for example, you have a particular part, and let's say for especially this particular part, I have this particular feature that I keep on changing. So this is the pattern, a circular pattern feature. So I keep on changing it every time, right? So since I keep on changing it every time, let's say you make some changes to it for more than 3 or 4 times, it automatically SolidWorks understands, okay, this is the one feature or this one particular sketch that you keep on changing every time. So it will put it directly inside the history folder. So how this helps is like instead of me having to go through each and every feature manager, each and every feature inside the feature manager tree, it's already there in the history folder. So I directly go inside my history, I just select that particular feature and then I make some modifications to it instead of wasting my time trying to find out where exactly is the particular feature inside my feature manager tree. So this is one way it's going to help you out. So coming back to the main assembly. Now, one more modification that has been made is addition of section views. Now, section views, we already know it. it is always there. So new addition is the addition of section view. I can define what all features do I want to keep or what all features do I want to remove. So let's say, for example, like I go for section view again. I create a top view, top plane as my cutting curve, and I say selected components. I want to include the selected. Now I can define which all parts do I want to keep. So this gives me a better idea, or better control over creating my section views. So if I create a section view now, I can actually find out how it looks like, right? So it's much more I can portray it across, I can show it across to my customers as well. So it gives me a better view. And this view, I can save it and post it inside. I can create a new view from this, and I can always create new drawings from it. So this is one more new enhancement which has been made in terms of SolidWorks 2014. So these are new modifications that is made in terms of user interface as well. Now, one more addition is the eDrawings part. eDrawings, is a fantastic tool for communicating your ideas across. Now, eDrawings are supported by not only by iPads, they're supported by all the Android tablets as well. Now, the new addition in terms of eDrawings is you can directly download your eDrawings. Whenever you go to 3D Content Central, right, for downloading different parts or different assemblies or different components altogether. Now you have this option of viewing them in eDrawings altogether, and then accordingly download it. So this is one enhancement that has been made. Now one more enhancement is if let's say for example I have this particular eDrawing. Now one more enhancement that has been made is like I can actually explode or animate the exploding option over here. If you see over here, I can animate the collapse. So this was something new in SolidWorks, eDrawings 2014. So it gives me a better understanding, or I can showcase it to my customer, who doesn't have SolidWorks. I can directly showcase to him how a particular assembly is being exploded, or how a particular assembly is being, disassembled. So this is one more new enhancement which has been made in terms of SolidWorks 2014 eDrawings. Yeah, with that, I would like to thank you for attending this webinar. And this webinar was basically concentrating mostly on your assemblies, parts, and drawings. There are a lot of new enhancements which has been made in terms of sheet metal. So there have been a lot of new features in terms of costings and simulations and all. So if you would like to have a better look or better understanding of this, you can drop me a mail. You have my email ID over here. It's nitin.m@beacon-india.com. We can come down to your premises and give a detailed, demo as to what all new changes that have been made in SolidWorks 2014. So with that, I would like to conclude. Now, if you have any questions, please let us know. If you have any questions, you can place those questions inside the chat window over here. There's one question over here which says, while deleting the parent feature and retaining the child features, does the child feature become dangling since it has lost the dependency from the parent feature? And can we redefine this child feature later? Yes, that is something which we can do in SolidWorks 2014. So if you have a look, I'll just give you a brief example of this. Let's say I have this particular assembly, and I have this plane. Okay, so if I have this particular plane, I delete this plane, I have this option of saying, whether I want to delete this child features or not, but I don't want to delete this child features. I just want to delete this particular feature. In this case, the plane. So if I delete this, it will give me an error saying that, there's a problem over here. So now if I go over here, I just say roll back to this particular option. I need to create a new plane for this. So I'll go for my features. I'll go for reference geometry. I'll just create a new plane. I can define the position I can define the way it's going to, the direction of the plane as well. Which direction do I want it? I'll say okay. So once I do this, I'll say roll to end. Now if I go to this, you see there's a dangling this thing. It says it's a missing plane. So I just select this plane. I'll say okay. And similarly, I can make some modifications to it. So this is the way that you can actually make some modifications to whatever child features are there. There's another question regarding the child features. How do the child features get references? Okay, once you, let's say for example you deleted a particular feature. Now the child features are still remaining. So what you need to do is you need to roll back to the particular feature and then create a new feature or which is similar to that. And once you go to the child features, you need to right click on them and then accurately select the right plane or the right feature or the right sketch, whatever changes that you made. So this is the way that I actually get the references for the child features. So one question which is saying with respect to the eDrawings, it says the effect of eDrawings 2013 is dull. Is there any changes in SolidWorks 2014 on this? I'm sorry, I'm not exactly able to understand what exactly are you looking for. When you say it's dull, it's with respect to what exactly? Which is saying what is the difference between arc and conic in sketching. Now, the difference between arc and conic is like the arcs I can define with the radius, and for conics I can define with respect to the row value that is available. So this gives me a better control, like you saw in my demo. It's for me. Also, I have this option of giving an auto tangency, by which I can make it much more faster for creating those kind of fillets. Okay, there's one question which is like how to redo in SolidWorks. I didn't find redo option in the toolbar. There are two options for it. The first one is if you go over here, you have this option over here. Let's say, for example, I'll open a particular part or assembly. So let's say I'll open this particular part. Now I have this option of saying rebuild over here, or the other option on the keyboard is by using Control Q. So if I press Control Q, I will be able to rebuild all the features on all the parts of it. There's one question which says, if you're able to features in Weldments separately, how can we make a common cut list for it? I'm sorry, can you give me uh, much more details about it? I mean, I'm not able to understand this question. Can you just give me a brief idea about it? The better option would be, you have my email ID. I'll share my email ID with you. So you can send me a mail. You can send me a mail with more details about this one. There's one question which says, can we import rendered parts into eDrawings? Well, when you say rendered parts, I mean, you're talking about adding addition of textures and all. Yes, you can import all this, but for that we need, it's not possible in eDrawings only, but it has to be in eDrawings Professional. You have to go for eDrawings Professional, by which you'll be able to see the textures and everything else inside. This one more question is like, somebody wants to rebuild whatever they have created. So, I mean, redo whatever they have created. So, can you give me a brief idea as to what exactly are you trying to redo? Are you talking about sketch, or are you talking about a particular feature, or what exactly do you want to redo? There's one question which says, is there any command like match properties like in AutoCAD? Yes, we have something known as Format Painter, which is there in SolidWorks drawings, by which we can match the properties. There's one request to show where exactly is the format printer on the screen. So if you go to SolidWorks, if you open a particular drawing, let's say for example, I'll open this drawing, and if I go under annotations, you'll see something known as format printer over here, by which you can, you can match properties similar to what you have in AutoCAD. If you see over here, copy visual properties between dimensions and annotations. So this is where you know have this is under annotations. and format printer. So I think I'm running out of time as of now. So whatever questions that you have, you can send a mail to me. Again, my email ID is nitin.m@beacon-india.com. And I would like to thank you for taking time out and attending this webinar. So thanks a lot.